是传奇，是异端，是疯子，还是天才？
Most heard of comments on your early works was that it is impossible to build. Is that true?
她被称为当今最伟大的女建筑师，才华横溢，性格火爆。
Well, because I don't want to build trash. That's not for me.
要么爱她，要么恨她，她就是扎哈·哈迪德，让建筑跳舞的女人。
大家好，欢迎收看《杨澜访谈录》。今天我要采访的这个女人可不寻常，她被称为是当今世界最伟大的女性建筑师，没有之一。她的作品充满了奇思妙想，以至于在41岁之前，没有一个设计得以建成，被人戏称是纸上谈兵的建筑师。她的性格张扬而固执，爱她的人称她是天才，恨她的人又叫她是疯子。她就是扎哈·哈迪德。今天她来到了杨澜访谈录。
那些近乎爆炸碎片的大小建筑，像狂飙一样扫过城市，空间在他手中就像橡胶泥一样，任由它改变形状。这就是人们对扎哈·哈迪德建筑的描述。这位出身于伊拉克的女人，在男性主导的世界建筑界获得与男建筑师平起平坐的地位，这本身便是一个耐人寻味的传奇。而在如今全球经济低迷、建筑师订单日减的情形下，他更是逆势而上，屡屡中标。他的设计也越来越受到中国人的青睐。扎哈·哈迪德究竟有着怎样的魔力？
But it's very exciting to see all these requests coming from all over the world. What does that tell us? It seems that there's something in your design that transcends from the West and East.
I think it's very exciting. That's why I think people, complaining all the time about things, it's ridiculous because it's a fantastic moment. I mean, we have a lot of work in China, and I think it's incredibly exciting. And each project is different, and each time you do something is a challenge. I have to say, I may be difficult, but I've never been difficult about work. People say, why do you do a small project? Because I always find everything challenging. I think that if somebody comes and says, oh, design a glass, I want to look at what is an idea about a new glass and how I can hold a new glass and what kind of material. It could be very thin. So every time we do something, we learn something else from it.
It's almost the same pattern of thinking and designing, right?
And
I know these things.
So I might know nothing about glass, and by doing it, I learn something. And that has been really an incredibly valuable experience because not everybody has a chance to experiment with so many different things.
扎哈曾说，中国城市的体量以及对建筑物容纳的野心让他兴奋不已。这些国外建筑师们似乎在这里找到了新的乐园和试验场。从鸟巢、国家大剧院再到央视新大楼，这些造型独特、前卫的建筑，在丰富城市景观的同时，却也遭受质疑。批评者们称他们一味追求另类和巨大，破坏了城市原本的和谐。这一争论的矛头也指向了扎哈。
How would you face certain criticisms from here, like saying that your extravagant kind of very different, distinctive designs are not in harmony with the buildings around it?
Well, I mean, that's another issue, which is harmony. I don't believe in this idea of, it depends on the master plan. We should be able to interpret the urbanism in different ways. And maybe some people do things which are repetitive, and some others do things which are different. I don't think anymore there is only one single overriding idea everywhere.
You gave me the feeling that you're kind of person who spend more time looking ahead instead of looking back, and you have a different perspective in terms of cultural preservation and architecture preservation.
Well, I think that it's you have to keep a balance between preservation and conservation and newness. Because I think you have to also invent. You have to take care of the existing beautiful things, but you have to but I don't think you should preserve them at the expense of stagnation.
这就是扎哈·哈迪德，他不相信建筑物之间的和谐，也不相信古建筑保护，他总是向未来看齐，将传统的观点远远地甩在身后。然而，这位如今最炙手可热的建筑师，在41岁之前，竟然没有一项设计得以建成。他也一度被戏称为纸上谈兵的建筑师。
Most heard of comments on your early works was that it is impossible to build. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was actually a rather ignorant and naive comment, because I think that it was the first time they saw the drawings for the peak in Hong Kong. That's when it came out. It was a shock. Yeah. They had not, it's not that they haven't seen anything like it. We had not at the time in the 80s, if you defy the way you draw a building or the way you draw the plan, they thought it was not possible. But I think that then they had also lost faith in the dream. You know, they did not believe that
you can make things
happen. You can make things happen, or you can do fantastic stuff. Because I think there was so much commercialism. And they forgot that the sort of, the world was really based on these grand projects.
Well, but obviously, technically, it adds to the difficulty of construction itself. Taking the example of the Guangzhou Opera House that you designed, I learned that no two steel parts are identical, and even more complicated than the bird nest in Beijing.
You know, I think now you can achieve complexity because of computing. You know, I think if you do a public building, you nest it into a space, you need to interpret it in such a way. It's not the same as building an office building, you know, you don't have...
but did it take extra effort to convince your clients to accept the idea?
No, I don't think so.
And usually it comes with excessive costs. I learned the criticism against the Cortex Center in London, although it's extremely beautiful, but I learned it's 3 times over the budget.
Well,
so when you think about the cost...
These things, you know, as you well know, the press like to, you know, say these things without really knowing what it should have cost.
But it's not some of the problems that you should care for, right?
No, we do care about cost, because with all our clients. But I mean, you cannot have a budget for a shed, and you want to, you know, build something which is more specific.
You get what you deserve, right?
You know, you can't have, you know, they're not the same.
But it required some courage to present your designs to your potential clients and be put down again and again and again. And you didn't have even single thought of giving up at that time? No. Wow.
I really enjoyed the work a lot. It was very difficult. It was very difficult financially. It was very difficult. But I was teaching, you know, I was teaching and lecturing everywhere. So I had enough income to carry on.
Are you willing to compromise if one of your clients would approach you and say, Zaha, I love your drawing, I love the design, but could you compromise by cutting this thing off? And,
well, I don't think I mean, compromising is not necessarily, I think you can develop a product if you have given time to reinterpret it. We all know cost or time is a factor in making a project. So we're not the kind of office where we say, no, we only build this and we don't. You know, we're always trying to
discuss
accommodate and discuss. But the critical thing, you have to have the idea of the project has to remain intact, or you have to have another idea. You know, sometimes the client wants a particular idea, but it doesn't match the expectations or whatever, so you have to adjust it.
Essa música.
不妥协的性格，火爆的脾气，偏执的个性，扎哈·哈迪德的身上总是充满矛盾和争议。更为重要的是，他的建筑是如此与众不同，总会得到狂热赞美和大家指责2种极端评价。曾经有人这样形容他的设计，仿佛就是一个面团被随便捏了几下，然后放在烤炉里烤一下。喜欢他的人赞叹他那扭曲成麻花状的建筑背后隐藏的数学美感，不喜欢他的人则批评他标新立异。然而，无论是爱他还是恨他，扎哈都像是在自己轨道上运行的星球。他说：“我不遵循任何规则， 或者说我只遵循我自己的规则。
I read so many press reports about you, and they all feature you as a woman, forceful and confident, and very sure about yourself.
I had the confidence in the work. I really thought the work can go somewhere. Of course, in oneself, you can't be that confident because you've been put down so many times. You can get confidence because, the way maybe you're brought up, or, people who are your peers support you, or friends, people who work with you, they give you the energy and the confidence to carry on.
Well, we tried to check with some of your colleagues and assistants, and they say that in your office, the sentence that you speak the most of the time is that I'm not happy with this.
Well,
You're always not happy with the things that they prepare for you?
I'm very self-critical. And it's not good enough if when people think they've done something brilliant. I know that it could be better, and it has to be pushed. So we have to redo things all the time. And that's okay. I mean, it's my prerogative, let's say, to spend more money on office time, on design, than on many other people.
Now you have more than 300 people working for you. How many projects at one time?
I don't know. I think maybe 40, 50, I don't know.
40.
I never count.
So you're actually working 24 hours a day?
More or less. I mean, you think about architecture all the time.
美国《时代周刊》曾这样描述扎哈·哈迪德：他强势感性，充满偶像气质，气场强大。而他的一位雇员则说，他经常像一个疯子一样，你得忍受他怪物一般的尖叫怒吼。回过头看，有时候觉得他很悲哀。我想他一定很不快乐，他的生活一团糟。这个嫁给建筑的女人，尽管年过60，却依旧独身一人。她又如何看待自己的选择呢？
Have you ever thought of living a so-called ordinary woman's life, like being married, raising children, and holidays, vacations?
No, I'm not against it. I think it's very nice for people to have, partners and children and everything. It's not that I was never against it. I just didn't happen. And maybe I didn't have the time to look for people.
But no regrets?
No, I don't have any regrets, no. I mean, I think it's fantastic for many people. I know that I would be, at the time, if I had done it, I would be very torn. Between, personally, I don't think everybody else is, but I personally would have been very torn between these worlds. And I had to really concentrate on architecture. I mean, it requires too much time. And that's a disadvantage of the profession. No, it is. It requires too much time to do it well. That's why not lots of people would like to do it well.
Is yourself the biggest enemy to your work? Do you take yourself as your biggest enemy?
No, not at all.
No, not at all. But you said you were very critical about your own work.
Well, because I don't want to build trash. I mean, I think that if somebody's coming to me to do a project for them, I have to do absolutely my best for them and for the place.
因为性别，也因为种族，他的成功之路倍加艰辛。
And I didn't want a foreigner. Everybody knew about it. It was very nasty.
最黑暗的日子，面对事业的危机，他又如何度过？
Like everybody was calling me out, commiserating me. So I thought, no, I really must carry on.
下节请继续收看杨澜专访扎哈·哈迪德，让建筑跳舞的女人。 巩俐来到英国参加电影《迈阿密风云》的首映。不远处的克劳伦斯宫里，58岁的查尔斯正和卡米拉庆祝他们结婚1周年。此时，泳池里的菲尔普斯正备战北京奥运。在水立方，他一人夺得8枚金牌的传奇，将令世界为之惊叹。21世纪的第1个10年，杨澜访谈录走进这些历史风云人物，以独特视角为您讲述一个人和他的时代。2004年，被称为建筑界诺贝尔奖的普利兹克奖授予了扎哈·哈迪德，她也成为该奖项有史以来第1位女性获奖人。评审委员会在获奖理由中写道：客户、记者和专业人士都为她建筑中充盈的动感和独特的形式而着迷，她的创意似乎无穷无尽。然而，获得人们认可的道路上，扎哈却走得倍加艰辛，因为她的性别，也因为她的种族。1950年，扎哈·哈迪德出生于伊拉克首都巴格达一个殷实的家庭，父亲是有名的商人及政治家。开明的家庭氛围和当时伊拉克开放的社会环境，让年少的扎哈得以自由地成长。10岁的时候，他告诉父母，自己要成为一名建筑师。
There were many more women doing architecture when I was in Iraq than maybe abroad. There was much more liberal. I went to university. That was not a cocooned life. No, came from a very liberal background.
Family, yeah.
Family. My father was a well-known economist and a politician, and industrialist, and that's why he believed in progress as well. And I took that from him. My mother was a very strong personality, and they're both very strong. But that didn't overwhelm me, because I think maybe because I was the youngest, and
so you had more freedom.
I think my early years in Iraq was very important because it was at the time that we had a revolution, and the idea of there was an issue of identity, and politics became very central to our lives. So we had to. We had to, even as a child, you had to sort of understand a bit what's going on. And I used to travel to Europe every summer, so I saw another world.
But was your mother concerned that you lived unorthodox and unconventional
she
personal life?
That was very important. Both my parents trusted me. They thought, although I was a bit, kind of not wild, sort of crazy. But they knew that I was quite strong, and they didn't think I will do anything wrong. Or I'll get into a hassle or whatever. And so they supported me. And then I came to boarding school. I went back to Beirut. Then I came to study in London. Yeah, I had a lot of support from all of them. So that was very important.
You once said that it's the well-being of the people who live in your buildings that is a major interest for you.
I think that architecture is about well-being. I mean, I think that if you take everything away, the form, the everything, you have to feel good in a project. You have to feel good in a space, whether it's outdoor, indoor. And that's what I call well-being. I mean, fundamentally, architecture is about shelter. I think that we still have part of that modernist dream, which is we have to build good housing, we have to have good schools, good medical institutions.
So that's a different perspective, because to many people they would think those architects only thinking about their artistic desires.
You have to think about
everything. Right?
You have to think about all these things. I mean, I think that life has changed. For example, in China, it's no longer only about production. People, people, they wake up, go to work, and come back and sleep. But what is changing is that people go to work, but also they have some free time. They might want to go shopping, they might want to go to a concert, they might walk down a nice street or go to the park.
So what would you do to make sure that the people living in or visiting your buildings would have better well-being, you know.
No, I'm just saying that's why I think space making is very important. To make a great space, because not everyone in the world is privileged to go to travel and see some great wonders.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody. No. And that's why it's very important that there's something in your locale that you can go and visit and enjoy, you know, without paying a lot of money or the plane fare or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think that's why people have to invest in great architecture.
上世纪60年代末，伊拉克爆发革命，扎哈的父亲带着全家逃离巴格达。1972年，22岁的扎哈独自来到伦敦，前往著名的建筑协会学习，师从雷姆·库哈斯。扎哈曾这样描述他在伦敦的日子：我记得刚到伦敦的时候，感觉自己完全就是一个流离失所的局外人，和整个环境格格不入。我猜测，大概是因为我穿的衣服和做事的方式与别人不同，以至于大家完全忘记我到底是做什么的了。
You have the support system.
You have a support system,
Yeah.
and I think that.
But you were quite alone.
Yeah, so I think that, you know, that's why women actually manage to survive in this situation. In the West, it's much more difficult.
然而，更为艰难的日子还在后头。1994年，扎哈·哈迪德获得威尔士卡迪夫歌剧院竞标冠军，但他的方案却最终被当局放弃。扎哈承认，卡迪夫的挫败曾给予他很大的打击。那时候，他甚至重新考虑自己是否应该继续留在建筑界。
What was the biggest setback to you in terms of your career?
Well, I think that, you know, the Cardiff Opera House was a very big setback. Well, we did a competition for the Cardiff Opera House.
Yeah.
In 2 stages. We won the first. They shortlisted after the first stage, so there were 8. And then we won outright the second phase. And then they went through a third phase. But it became a very big news story. And they didn't want a foreigner. But I think it's because the work was not what they expected it to be. They wanted something else.
So the panel give the
panel
give the award to you.
Me, yes.
Yes.
The politicians did not want me to have it.
So what kind of lesson did you learn from that?
Because it was so much in the news, it was in the papers every day, on TV, in the national press and national press. Everybody knew about me. And also, many people were very angry about it, that I was treated this way. So I gained a lot of support from people, but they couldn't do anything about it. You know? And I think that
so it's a curse and blessing at the same time.
At the same time. And they didn't say we don't like her. They just said we can't give the Millennium Project money, which was, I really think, pretty outrageous when I look back. After that, it was very dark. Because
How dark?
Well, very bad. With no work, everybody knew about it. It was very nasty. And everybody thought I would give up. But I made a very conscious decision maybe a month after to say, I'm not going to let this put me down or stop me. I made a conscious decision to make the next competition. And I knew at the time that I will not win anything for a while, but I will try.
40年远离故乡，他为何迟迟不愿回去？
My parents are not there anymore, you know, to go back to a place where most of the people I knew have left.
下节请继续收看杨澜专访扎哈·哈迪德，让建筑跳舞的女人。2006年，巩俐来到英国， 参加电影《迈阿密风云》的首映。不远处的克劳伦斯宫里，58岁的查尔斯正和卡米拉庆祝他们结婚1周年。此时，泳池里的菲尔普斯正备战北京奥运。在水立方，他一人夺得8枚金牌的传奇，将令世界为之惊叹。21世纪的第1个10年，杨澜访谈录走进这些历史风云人物，以独特视角为您讲述一个人和他的时代。2010年，扎哈·哈迪德接受伊拉克政府的邀请，为伊拉克中央银行设计新大楼。此时，距离他离开故乡已近40年。
Now I would like to go back, but it's emotional, you know, it's like my parents are not there anymore, you know, to go back to a place where most of the people I knew have left. And so that is more the hurdle than anything else.
But you said emotional.
Yeah, it is emotional. The emotional issue is...
And you should...
It's not
you think you should...
You have to, prepare yourself to face something which you have, not seen for a long time.
If you ever have a dream of going back to the country, what would that dream be?
I mean, I think that, you only realize it when you meet other Iraqis or speak the language or listen to the music or you have a smell or whatever. I think that... so it's not me that I've not been to the Middle East, I haven't been to Iraq, but I mean, yeah, I don't know how I'd react, honestly, after all these years. But Baghdad was a very beautiful city, I mean, it was quite nice. And there's certain areas, of course, and neighborhoods which were, I think they are very dilapidated now, but they were very, I think they were very stunning. But, sometimes memory plays tricks on you. You remember certain things. I mean, I know that now. For example, when I have been somewhere many years ago, when I return to that place, it's like very different than when I thought it to be.
It's usually smaller than we thought, because we were young and taller and shorter.
Much smaller or different. When I went back to Beirut after 20 years absent, I tried very hard to trace my steps to not find out, because it's so destroyed, where certain areas were. And every time I went back, I had to find out where this one spot was. Only then I was shocked, because it seemed like so far away from this other spot, but actually they were just opposite each other. It was weird. But it wasn't just because it was smaller, because of the game of geometry.
在扎哈设计的那些盘旋流动的线条当中，我们似乎看到了一位建筑师舞蹈的灵魂。其实，建筑师是需要面对未来的。在谈到这个地球的未来的时候，扎哈说，他希望看到一个更加自由和包容的世界，因为只有在这样的一个世界，人们的创造力才能够真正的翩翩起舞。无论你出生在哪个国度，无论你的性别是什么。好，感谢你收看本期的杨澜访谈录，我们下周见。But it's very exciting to see all these requests coming from all over the world.
It's very exciting. That's why I think people, complaining all the time about things, it's ridiculous, because it's a fantastic moment.
How would you face certain criticisms from here, like saying that your extravagant, kind of very different, distinctive designs are not in harmony with the buildings around it?
I don't believe in this idea of, we should be able to interpret the urbanism in different ways.
You gave me the feeling that you're kind of person who spend more